The prairie stretched endless and restless, where the wind never seemed to stop and the late sun turned the land into rolling waves of gold. On a wagon pulled by two weary mules rode three sisters, heading home from a long day of trading in town. Clara, the eldest at 18, held the reins with a steady grip, though inside she worried about losing daylight. Beside her sat Rose, 16, whose sharp eyes caught everything. Lily, the youngest at 15, hummed softly in the back, clutching the basket of flour and salt they had bought. The trail was lonely, the kind that made every sound seem louder. Clara's heart skipped when Rose suddenly leaned forward, pointing into the distance. "Clara, someone's riding hard," she whispered. Sure enough, a lone rider cut across the horizon, dust rising behind him like a storm. Clara slowed the mules, her stomach tight with unease. Strangers were rare out here, and rare things could mean trouble. The rider drew closer. He was young, not much older than Clara, with a worn hat pulled low and a shirt torn at the sleeve. His horse was lathered and exhausted. He reined in beside their wagon, and the girls saw his face dusty, tired, but striking, with eyes that carried something between fear and determination. "Evening," he said, voice rough but respectful. "Name's James. I don't mean no harm. I've been riding all day," and he glanced behind him, jaw tight, as if someone might appear on the horizon. "I just need a place to lay low for a spell. Nothing more." Lily leaned forward, whispering, "He don't look bad, Clara." Rose narrowed her eyes. "Or he's hiding something." Clara gripped the reins tighter, caught between caution and curiosity. The open prairie was a lonely place, and sometimes trouble wore a friendly face. The wagon creaked along as the sisters exchanged quick glances. Clara could feel Rose's eyes on her, waiting for her decision. Lily, always the gentlest, leaned forward with hope in her expression. James sat tall in the saddle, though Clara noticed his grip on the reins wasn't as steady as he wanted it to look. His horse's chest heaved, nostrils wide, its coat slick with sweat. Whatever chase he'd been in, it hadn't been easy. Clara spoke first, her tone firm. "You say you need a place to rest. Why?" James hesitated, his gaze flicking again over his shoulder to the wide horizon, empty except for drifting dust. "Been riding since dawn," he answered carefully. "Ain't much else to it." Rose gave a dry laugh. "That's a half-truth if I ever heard one. Folks don't tear up a horse like that unless they're running from something." Clara shot her a warning look, but James didn't seem offended. If anything, his jaw tightened. He tipped his hat lower, almost as though he carried the weight of something he couldn't quite tell. "I won't trouble you long," he said. "If I can water my horse and find a roof for the night, I'll be gone by morning." The mules stamped at the dirt as the wagon rolled forward. Clara wrestled with the choice. She could send him away, risk angering him, and leave him to the prairie night. Or she could let him follow and invite whatever danger trailed behind him right up to their door. Finally, she exhaled. "You can ride along behind us, but you'll keep your distance, mister. My pa don't take kindly to strangers riding up unannounced." James nodded once, his expression unreadable. He fell back a pace with his horse, though Clara caught the way his eyes softened when they rested on her just for a moment, like he hadn't seen kindness in a long time. Rose crossed her arms. "I don't trust him." Lily smiled faintly, watching James trail behind. Sometimes good folks look rough when life's been unkind. Clara said nothing, though deep inside, she knew both her sisters could be right. And when she glanced back at James, she swore she saw him scanning the horizon again, as if someone, somewhere, was still hunting him. The wagon rattled up the last rise before the valley, where the family ranch sat tucked against a line of cottonwoods. Faded fences marked the boundary, and the faint glow of lamplight flickered from the windows of the modest house. It wasn't much, but to the three sisters, it was home. James rode a little ways behind, just as Clara had told him. His silhouette was tall against the bruised sky, where James, his horse was near spent, asked for shelter just for tonight. Samuel's sharp gaze shifted to the cowboy. James dismounted slowly, taking off his hat in a show of respect. "Sir, I'll trouble you only this once. A bit of water for my horse, a place to rest, and I'll be on my way come sunrise." The silence stretched as Samuel studied him. Finally, he gave a short nod toward the barn. "Water trough's out back. Horse can stay in the stall. As for you—" He paused, eyes narrowing just slightly. "One night. No more." "Much obliged," James said quietly, his hat still in his hand. As James led his weary horse away, Clara felt the tension in her father's shoulders. Something about James unsettled him, though Samuel said nothing more. Inside, over supper, the girls whispered when their father couldn't hear. "He's polite," Lily said softly, and not much older than Clara. Rose leaned in closer. "Polite doesn't mean safe. Didn't you see the way he kept watching the horizon? He's running from someone. I'd wager my boots on it." Clara stayed quiet, though the unease in her chest only deepened. When she stole a glance through the window, she saw James in the barnyard, stroking his horse's neck like it was the only friend he had left in the world. There was sadness in his posture, and maybe something else, something he wasn't saying. And then Clara noticed something in the distance, just at the edge of the darkened prairie. A faint flicker of light, like a campfire, too close for comfort. The prairie night was quiet at first. Coyotes yipped in the far distance, and the steady creak of wood came from the barn where James settled his horse. The sisters finished clearing the supper table, though none of them could quite shake the heaviness hanging over the house. When Clara stepped outside to draw water from the well, she paused. Out beyond the fences, low on the horizon, she caught it again, the faint flickering glow of fire. Not lightning, not a homestead. Too far from town to be anything ordinary. James must have seen her staring because his voice came low from the shadows near the barn. "You noticed it too." Clara turned, startled. His hat was off, his dark hair loose around his face. In the moonlight, his features looked softer, but his eyes were sharp, restless. "What is it?" she asked. James's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the glow, then back at her as if debating how much truth to tell. Could be riders, maybe just passing through. But he hesitated, voice lowering further. "I've had men follow me before." Her stomach knotted. "Why?" Before James could answer, the barn door creaked and Rose stepped out, suspicion clear in her expression. "So he admits it then," she whispered harshly. "You are being chased." James straightened, his tone calm but firm. "I never said I was innocent of nothing, only that I ain't here to harm you." Rose scoffed, folding her arms. "That's not much comfort when whoever's after you is sitting out there watching us." Clara's heart pounded. She knew Rose had a point, but there was something in James's voice, a raw honesty that pulled at her despite herself. Lily slipped outside too, clutching a shawl around her shoulders. She looked from James to the glow beyond the fences, her voice small but certain. "He's scared, more scared than we are." The prairie wind stirred then, carrying with it the faint sound of horses distant, but drawing closer. James's eyes narrowed. "If they've found me, they'll come before dawn." Clara swallowed, torn between fear and something deeper she didn't dare name. Their quiet ranch had just become a battleground in someone else's fight. The Whitaker ranch was wrapped in uneasy silence. Inside, their father had gone to bed, though Clara knew he never slept heavy. The sisters lingered in their shared room, whispering in nervous tones, while James kept watch outside in the barn. The prairie wind rattled the shutters. Then came another sound, the distant thunder of hooves. Not one horse, several. Clara froze, her blood running cold. Rose sat up in bed, her sharp eyes wide in the moonlight. "They're here," she breathed. Before Clara could answer, the dogs in the yard began barking, sharp and furious. The hooves drew closer, kicking up dust under the pale glow of the moon. Lily clutched her blanket to her chest, her voice trembling. "Clara, what do we do?" Clara didn't have time to reply. The front door creaked open. Their father's voice rang low but steady from the hall. "Stay put, girls. Don't you move from this room." Through the thin curtain, Clara saw James moving quickly from the barn, rifle in hand, his figure tense as a drawn bow. He wasn't running, but ready like a man who'd done this before. The riders came into view, 4 shadowy figures on horseback, their faces hidden under broad hats. They circled into the yard, slow, deliberate, their horses snorting clouds of steam in the cold night air. One of them called out, voice harsh. "Evening to this house. We're looking for a boy riding a chestnut mare. Goes by James." Clara's heart hammered. Rose hissed, "I knew it." Lily grabbed Clara's hand, whispering, "But they sound meaner than he ever did." James stepped into the lantern light by the barn, rifle steady in his hands. His voice carried clear, though calm. "I told you to quit trailing me." The lead rider leaned forward in his saddle, sneering. "You know how this goes, boy. You can run, but you can't hide forever." From the window, Clara's chest tightened. James wasn't just some tired traveler. He was a hunted man, and now, so were they. The riders lingered in the yard like wolves, their shadows stretching long across the dirt. James stood square, rifle lifted but steady. Samuel Whitaker had stepped out onto the porch with his own shotgun, jaw tight, not a word wasted. The 2 men shared a silent understanding. Strangers on your land at midnight were no friends. The lead rider leaned forward again, his voice carrying sharp in the night. "Hand him over and we'll ride on quiet. Keep him, and you'll be sorry for it." Clara felt Lily's trembling hand in hers. Rose muttered under her breath, "Pa won't give him up, not without a fight." Before anything could break, Samuel's voice rang out. "This is my land. Nobody makes demands here but me. You've had your say. Now be gone before I make you leave." The standoff stretched like a rope ready to snap. Then, with a cold laugh, the lead rider jerked his reins. The horses wheeled, kicking up dust as the men retreated into the night, their threat hanging heavy in the air. The yard was still again, but the quiet wasn't peace. It was warning. Inside, after the door was bolted and lamps turned low, Samuel sat James down at the table. The sisters crowded near, their faces pale but burning with questions. Samuel's voice was gravel. "Time to tell us straight. Who are those men? And why are they after you?" James sat forward, hat in his hands, his shoulders heavy. He looked younger in the lamplight, not the hardened cowboy he'd tried to be in the yard. His voice was low, steady, but laced with regret. "They're bounty men, after me for something I didn't do." Rose's eyes narrowed. "That's what they all say." James didn't flinch. "Town back east. A saloon owner was gunned down. I was seen arguing with him that same night. Truth is, I was trying to stop him from cheating a drifter out of his last dollar. But when the smoke cleared, I was the one blamed. I ran 'cause I had no chance to prove otherwise. Folks out there, they'd rather hang a man quick than wait for truth." The room was heavy with silence. Lily's wide eyes shimmered. Rose crossed her arms tighter, though her suspicion wavered. Clara, standing closest, felt a rush of something she couldn't name: pity, anger at the injustice, and a dangerous flicker of trust. "You saved that drifter?" she asked quietly. James met her eyes. For a heartbeat, the room seemed to vanish around them. "I couldn't stand by and watch a man robbed of everything he had left." Clara's chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, and the way he spoke, low and earnest, made it near impossible not to. But believing him meant bringing his trouble into their lives. And tonight had proved just how deadly that trouble could be. The house had gone quiet, though no one slept. Rose lay restless, muttering to herself about how strangers always brought trouble. Lily drifted close to the window, staring at the horizon as if she could will the firelight away. Their father sat guard with his shotgun across his lap, eyes never closing. Clara slipped outside. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of dust and horses. The moon sat high, silvering the fences and cottonwoods. She found James by the corral, leaning against the fence, his rifle propped at his side. He looked tired, older than his years, but when he turned and saw her, there was a softness in his gaze. "You should be resting," Clara said quietly. "Hard to rest when you don't know if you'll wake to gunfire," James answered, his voice low. Clara stepped closer, arms folded tight against the night chill. For a long moment, they just listened to the wind, the creak of the barn wood, the restless shifting of the horse in its stall. "Is it true?" she asked finally. "What you told us about not killing that man?" James held her eyes. "I swear it. I ain't no murderer. I've run so far trying to find a place where someone might believe me. Tonight, for the first time in a long while, I felt maybe I wasn't running alone." Her chest tightened at his words. She wanted to stay guarded, but she saw the raw honesty in him. It was dangerous to care, but she already did. "You brought trouble to our door," she said softly, though there was no anger in it. He nodded, shame flickering across his face. "I'll ride out at first light. No sense bringing more of it on you." Clara's throat ached. She should have wanted him gone, should have been relieved. Instead, the thought of him disappearing into the endless prairie left her unsettled. "If you ride," she whispered, "don't ride so far that you can't find your way back." For a moment the silence stretched between them, alive with unspoken things. Then James gave a faint smile, tired but true. "If there's one place I'd turn back to, Clara, it'd be here." The screen door creaked softly behind them. Rose's sharp voice carried, though not unkind. "Don't be making promises you can't keep, Cowboy." James glanced at the middle sister, then back at Clara, and tipped his hat with quiet respect. "I only make the kind I aim to keep." The night wind stirred, carrying with it the faint echo of hoofbeats still somewhere out in the darkness. The danger wasn't gone. But for now, beneath the silvered sky and the quiet hum of the prairie, Clara felt something stronger than fear, the beginning of trust. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of love.